Today we're going to talk about mapping. So if you're looking at these links, that you'll need this Tableau 3 mapping file. That's the PDF if you want to follow along. It's kind of like an outline of what we're doing. But the data you'll actually need if you want to play along with me are these two data sets here, the GPL Tableau 3 Decatur School enrollment data and the GPL Tableau 3 DeKalb schools in 30033. So I already downloaded those files, so I'm going to go ahead and connect them to my Tableau project here. So I have Tableau open. For this session, I'm going to be using Tableau desktop, so the full version of Tableau. So I'm going to click on this new data source, and they're both Excel files, so I'm going to click on connect to Microsoft Excel. And the first one we're going to use is the enrollment data website, Decatur School enrollment data. So just in case you're wondering, I found these data sets. Well, actually, this data set I found through the Georgia Department of Education. They have enrollment data on all their public schools. But I modified it a little bit. I just sort of truncated it, so we're only looking at the city of Decatur. And there's all sorts of data in here. Some of it was not super useful, so I cleaned it up a lot. And we're just going to look at enrollment data by year, school name, and zip code. Okay, so anyway, I connected to the Decatur school enrollment data file, the Excel files, and it's going to take us to this data source page. So if you've been here for Tableau 1 and Tableau 2, this should look familiar to you. So whenever you connect to a new data source, it takes you to this page. This Excel sheet only had one sheet in it. So the Excel file only had one sheet in it. So we're seeing the preview of that sheet here. So again, we'll see the year, the school name, cluster, city, state, zip code, and enrollment data. One thing that we will have to do here, if you notice the year, just to sort of refresh your memory, Tableau puts a little icon on top of each data column. It identifies what kind of data is in each column. So Tableau automatically generates this data type for us. And a lot of times it gets it right, but it doesn't always get it right. So in this case, if we look at the year, Tableau has identified this or categorized this as a number data, whole number data, which isn't quite right. So to change this data type, just click on that little icon, that pound sign that indicates that it's a number, and we're going to change that to date. There. So we want to see that little calendar icon. So we just have the year, so it's going to format all the years as January 1st, but we don't have to worry about that right now. We're going to go ahead. Everything else looks good. The school name is string data. That's what we want. The city has a geographic icon on, so that's what we want. What we could do is double click to make sure this is all correct. So if you click on the globe icon and go to geographic role, it will tell you. But that is correct. Tableau has correctly identified that as city, and the state data is correct as well. And the zip code is a zip code or postal code. So that's going to be important since we're focused on mapping today. It's going to be important that our geographic variables are set up properly. So we're going to go ahead and open sheet 1. We're going to start building a map here. So as you may have suspected, to create a map in Tableau, you need at least one geographic variable. All right, so we're going to start with a shaded area map. So it's a basic map. We're going to map enrollment by zip code. And Tableau is going to color in each zip code, and the darkness or the lightness of the shading is going to indicate the value of school enrollment in that zip code. So to get started, we're just going to take a zip code pill here, and we're going to just drag it, and we're going to drop it right into the middle of our workspace. It might take a minute but Tableau is eventually going to generate a map. It's hard to tell really what this map is showing us, but you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in or out if you want to see sort of a broader context. So if you're not from the area, if you're not familiar with the Atlanta metro area, Decatur's a suburb of Atlanta just to the east, and all the schools we're going to look at are in Decatur. So that's what we're looking at. So there's a dot. Since we put the zip code data into our map, there's a dot for every zip code in our data set. We put zip code into our map, and it doesn't really look like much, right? Because we haven't added any data to our map yet. So that's the next thing we want to do is I would like to drop enrollment onto color. So let's try that. So when I put enrollment onto color, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now we can see here that Tableau has created a shaded area map from our zip codes. So it took the zip codes from our data set and it applied the sum of the enrollment data here. And you can see the darker the shaded area, the higher the enrollment. So if I hover my mouse over it, we can see the tooltip. We also see the legend over here. So the darker the blue, the higher the enrollment number. So that is a basic shaded area map. There are a couple of things I want to point out here, though. If you remember, if we look at our data set, you don't have to follow me if you don't want to, but I'm just going to go back to look at our data source. So we did have year. Remember, we changed the year from a number to a calendar or to a date category. So when we see our pill, our enrollment pill that we put in onto our color card, it says sum enrollment. So it's adding all the enrollment data from every year in our data set, and it's putting it on that zip code. But let's say, for example, we're more interested in looking at maybe enrollment by year. So instead of all the years added together, maybe we want to look at year by year what the enrollment is. So for that, we can create a filter. So to create that year filter, I'm going to take this year pill and I'm going to drop it onto the filters card here. And now we do see this dialog box. It gives us an option. It's just asking us how do we want to use this date filter. So we only have years, as we talked about earlier. So we're just going to select years. If you did have like day by day data, you could filter it by day or month or quarter. But we don't have that. We just have annual data here. So it's not going to make sense to subdivide that. So we're just going to take year and click next. And now we get to choose the years we want to show up in our filter. So we're going to select all. And I'm going to click OK. And as you may recall from a previous session, that does not, creating the filter doesn't give us the opportunity to activate the filter over here on the right. So we have to go in there, click on the year filter again, click on that pill in the filter marks card, and we got to click show. So when we show the filter now, we have an interactive filter we can play around with over here. So if we wanted to filter by all, or maybe just select a few years, we can do that. Okay. So this is sort of like the default checkbox style filter. What I want to, and okay, if we click on nothing, it all disappears. But you can customize your filters a little bit more. Besides, just through if we go to edit filter, this is showing us what we did to set it up originally. But once you have that filter in place, there are some additional tools you can use to further customize it. So if you notice in the filter box over here on the right, there's a little arrow. I'm going to click on that. And so we have some opportunities here to change our filter around. So what I want to do is I want to change it to, you see these options here, you can change it to single value, a list, single value dropdown, single value slider. I'm going to click on the single value. No, not the dropdown. I didn't want that. I want the single value list. So now there's like a little radio button. So this works, and I like this a little bit better. In this example, I think it works a little bit better than the checkbox where we can select multiple values. Another thing you could do, maybe you're interested in the annual year-by-year data. Maybe you don't want the all to show up here. You can customize that as well. If you click on that little arrow, again, if you click on Customize, you can uncheck that Show All Values. There I am, Customize. So now I just see the year-by-year values. And we can see that the shading changes slightly if we go from year to year, but it's really hard to tell exactly what the differences are from year to year. So we might want to add a label. So we can add, maybe we want to add the enrollment number as a label. So I'm going to go back to my fields here, and I'm going to take enrollment. I'm going to drop that over label. So now you can see it's when I invoke the filters over here, we can see the numbers changing, as well as the slight variations in the shading. So maybe we want to label these zip codes as well. So I can take the zip code pill and I'm going to drop that on label 2. So now we can see the number on top is the enrollment and the number below is the zip code. But maybe we want to edit that a little bit. Maybe it makes more sense to have the zip code first. So you can always edit your label just by clicking on the label card here. And then if you click on those 3 little dots, it opens up this little dialog box. And all I want to do is take the enrollment and put it below. I think I did something wrong. So I just want to reverse the zip code and the enrollment data. So I'm going to move it so the zip code's on top. It undid my formatting, so I'm going to recenter that. So now we have zip code. So what that code means is whatever the zip code is for that area, it's going to display it, and then it's going to show the sum of enrollment for that area as well. So it just flipped them. So now we have the zip code with the enrollment number. And there we have a basic shaded area map. I'm going to name this sheet. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to rename this symbol map. And by the way, before I move on to the next sheet, I just wanted to show you that customizing the colors is always an option here. So maybe you don't like this sort of default blue shading. If you open up the color card and edit colors, you have a whole range of color options to choose from. So maybe I'm interested in the maybe orange gold. This is a shaded area map. All right, so sheet 2. So we're going to, with the next sheet, we're going to talk about a symbol map. So a symbol map, instead of shading geographies of the map a particular color, we're going to apply a symbol onto that map, maybe a dot, and we can change the size of that dot depending on the value we're trying to demonstrate or visualize. So with sheet 2, we're going to go ahead and make the symbol map. So we're going to use the same variable here, the zip code. We're going to add that zip code data to our map. So far, it looks the same as the previous map. And now what we're going to do is we only really have one measure in this data set. It's enrollment. So we're going to use enrollment, but instead of dropping it on color this time, I want to drop it on size. And now you can see maybe that the size of these symbols change now because it's reflecting the enrollment by zip code here. So they still all look pretty small. So what we could do if we wanted these to show up a little better, we can click on that size card, and now there's a slider here. So we can increase the size of those symbols. In this case, the symbol is just that bubble. So I'm gonna make my symbol about that big. Okay, so what I could do here is apply the same labels that I did in the previous map. We want a little bit of context here. So if I take the zip code, put that on label, maybe enrollment, put that on label. So now we see the zip code and the enrollment number, but we're still seeing the cumulative enrollment data from all the years in our data set. So if we wanted to be able to filter by year, like we did in the previous example, we can recreate that year filter. So I'm just going to drag the year on the filter again. There's nothing new here. I'm just going to do create the same filter. Just because it's a little more practice in building a filter. And with this one, maybe I want to get rid of the show all again, and maybe I want to use the single value drop down. Okay. So now we have a basic symbol map. I'm going to name this map symbol map, not to be confused with the shaded area map. Okay. So there are a couple other map features that I wanted to talk about here. So Tableau allows us to edit the background of the map a little bit. So you may have noticed on the top menu here, there's an option for map. If we click on map, let's go to background layers and see what that looks like. So the first thing you see up on the top left of the background layers menu is the style. So the default is the light style. Let's see what happens if we change that to normal. It's a little darker. You see some geographic features in the map. If you want to, you can choose the dark option. So this has kind of like a nighttime. Okay, so I'm just scrolling through the different styles to show you what they look like. If I zoom in or out, I guess you can't really see much with the dark style, but maybe I would change that to streets. So you can see, maybe for your map, it would make sense to put streets as your background layer. Maybe you're looking at transportation and schools or something like that. So that's an option. And now if you're using a street layer like this, maybe you want to be able to see behind the bubbles a little bit. So you can click on the color card and change the opacity. So that way you can see behind the bubbles a little bit. When I'm using these bubbles, like the symbol map, a lot of times I would like to put the border around the circle too. It just gives a little bit more definition and clarity. So streets is another option. There's an outdoor option, which is pretty similar to streets, but I guess you get a little bit more geographic features in this map. And then finally, there's a satellite option. So this is more like kind of like a Google satellite image kind of a thing. And you can play around with your opacity if you want your symbols to show up darker, lighter. Okay, I just wanted to scroll through those background options, but for this example, I'm just going to go back to the normal. You can use whatever you want, but for me, I feel like I want to use the normal. Okay. And now, one thing I will go back to the satellite just for a minute here. I just wanted to show you what this washout slider does. So this washes out the background. So if the background is too dark, maybe you could lighten it up a little bit using that wash up slider. I'm going to go back to normal for now. You can use it on the lighter backgrounds too. The lighter backgrounds might not need as much. Okay, so I'm just going to keep that at 0. Okay, so I also wanted to show you the background map layer. So this is showing us what objects or labels or boundaries are on the background layer. So you can see by default, some of these things are selected, but maybe we don't want the country names or label. Maybe we don't need to label the country names. Maybe we don't need to label the state names. I'm going to uncheck that. But maybe, since we're looking at zip code level data, maybe I want to show the zip code boundaries. There. If you wanted to, you could put maybe some neighborhoods in there. So if you select the neighborhoods layer and you scroll in, you will see the neighborhoods on the map. So you can sort of play around with those. For me personally, I like to have kind of like a cleaner looking map. I don't like a lot of labels or features on the map. I just want to draw the attention to the data that I'm trying to visualize. So you do have some options. I'd encourage you to play around with some of those. You can also add data. So Tableau allows you to add, there's some demographic data here as a data layer. So if you look down below where it says data layer, we have no data layer showing. But if you open up that menu, you see you can choose household income, housing. There's some housing data, occupation data, population data, and some race data. So let's say we want to look at household income. So maybe we want to look at household income and school enrollment, right? On the same map, we can do that. So I'm going to choose household income. And if we look at the detail after we selected the household income, it's showing us that data at the state level. And since all of our, I'll just scroll out for a little bit. Since all of our schools are in the same state, it doesn't really make much sense to show state level data here. By the way, I'm just using the mouse wheel to scroll in and out. And there are a series of tools on the map here. So if you click that little arrow and select this little cross symbol, you can move the map around. Okay, so I want to see maybe differences in income among my zip codes here. So I'm not really interested so much in state level data here. So where it says detail, I'm going to open that up. I could do zip code. So now I'm looking at income by zip code, or I could even do income by census tract if I wanted to. I'll go back to zip code here. And since we have the zip code data here, we could maybe label the zip codes. Let's see what that looks like. So now you can see each zip code has a label. And maybe since I'm using the map to label the zip codes, I could take my zip code off of my label card here. So if I drag that off. That's sort of up to you. I actually think I like the label on the bubble a little bit better. So I'm going to take the zip code label off of my background map, and I'm going to reapply that zip code to my bubble. But I don't, maybe it does look a little bit cluttered. So maybe I'll go and take the neighborhood names off of my map. This is, you can see this is very flexible. I'm going to take this, maybe the enrollment total off of my label. So, but if I hover my mouse over the bubble, I can still see the value. Maybe I want to change my color palette to maybe the brown area. The blue I like the brown because the blue shows up a little bit, the blue bubbles show up a little bit better against the brown background. So now on this map again, we're looking at the symbols are showing us the school enrollment, and we have a filter so we can look at all years in our data set, or we can look at a specific year. And we're also seeing the household income data as the background layer. So this map looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this one. I think I'll keep it about like that. This drop-down menu allows you to change the visualization type. So it's similar to using the Show Me tab over here. But you can get a little bit more specific in here. So if we chose shape here, and then click on shape and then more shapes, we have these default options. There are a few sort of like pre-canned shapes we can create here, or we can use here. Maybe we want to use, I don't know, like this diamond shape. Probably want to fill that in. Oh, so that's an unfilled diamond, so I probably don't want to use that one. Maybe this one. Back to the shapes. You can change the shapes. I think in this particular example, I do like the bubble the best, although the bubble is it's sort of what's the default in Tableau. Okay, so with this next data set, we're going to start working with spatial files. So if you're familiar with like ArcGIS or really any kind of GIS software that uses shape files, this might be of interest to you. If you're not, don't worry about it. We figured out a fairly simple way to export shape files from Google Maps. So in this example, I'm going to show you real quickly how I generated the shapes we're going to use in the next example. But you don't have to worry about doing this yourself. I just sort of want to give you a taste of what I did. All of the shapes that I created are in that second data set. So this DeKalb schools in 30033. If you look at this data set, those are the shapes that I created using Google Maps. I'm just going to show you real quickly how I did it in case you want to do it on your own. But again, don't worry about necessarily following every step here. And if you're familiar with spatial files, they're all a little bit different. There are a variety of different programs that work with shape files and spatial files, and the way the data is arranged and constructed is all a little bit different. Okay, so here's if you wanted to do this on your own, you could just go to My Google Maps. Let's see. Or My Maps Google. The URL is on the handout. So if we wanted to create a new map here, I just click the create a new map and I can search for a zip code. So we're interested in the 30033 zip code. And if I scroll in, you can see here there's an untitled layer, but maybe I want to name that. I'm just going to click on the untitled layer name to name it. I'll call it maybe schools indicator. And if I scroll in here, this is a school here, and maybe I want to create a shape file where this school lives. I can just click on this icon here, add a line or shape, and I'm just going to literally just draw the outline of that school on the map. And now I can name it. This is the International Community School. Oh, it's a line. I didn't connect the line, so it interpreted it as a line. So once you enclose the shape, it becomes a polygon, and that's what you need to do. Make it a polygon. International Community School. So all I did was I went to this zip code, and I found all the schools in the 30033 zip code, and I plotted them on a map just by using this draw a line tool, or draw a line or shape tool more accurately. And then once I created all those, let's go back. I put them all in this map here. So here they are. Each one of these little orange shapes is a school in this zip code, and they're all listed here. And once I've done that, I clicked layer options, export data. KML is a shape, spatial file data type. But if you do that, if you use that file, all you have is the shape. You can't ascribe labels to it. So what I did is instead I saved it as a CSV file. And with the CSV file, I could add the school names. So there's a school name attached to the shape. So there are a number of ways, again, to use shape files or spatial files. This is just one way that you can do it. It's fairly simple to do in Google Maps. So let's see, I've created that. File, and now I want to import it into this workbook that we've been working with. So I want to combine it with the symbol, the project we've been working on when we created the shaded area map and the symbol map. I'm going to use it on the same project. So to connect to it, you should be pretty familiar with that by now. You can connect to a new data source using the data menu option up on the top of the page. And by the way, I went in and converted the CSV file to Excel file. So this is it, DeKalb schools in 30033. And the reason why I converted it to an Excel file is because Tableau Public cannot read CSV files. So just in case I've ever found myself using this data with Tableau Public, or in case you're going to use this file with Tableau Public, I converted it to a Excel file. Okay. So here is the spatial data that we just imported from Google Maps. So this WKT field, this actually includes the shapefile, like the coordinates of the geographic coordinates of the schools. Okay, but if you look, we talked a little bit about the data types earlier today. So Tableau has interpreted this as string data. You see the ABC, but that's not right. We know that's not string data. So we're going to click on that and we're going to convert that from string to spatial. And WKT, that field name was automatically generated by Google. That means nothing to us. So what we're going to do is right click on that and rename this column. I'm going to call it school locations. So we have the location of the school and the name of the school as our first two columns. The third column is a description, and there's no data in the description. This is, again, automatically generated by Google, and we didn't add any description, so it's going to be empty. So if we don't want to look at this, we can just right click on it and hide it. So now we should have two columns in this DeKalb schools in 30033 dataset. One says school locations with the polygons, and it should have that globe icon. So spatial data is geographic data, right? So when you specified spatial data, that's where that globe came from. And the school name, that's just a name or categorical data. So the string ABC category is correct. Now let's go to sheet 3. So we've just imported our shape files, and now this is what it looks like. We have the school, we have the name, so that would be the name of the school and the school locations. Those are the two columns. If you were to go back, the two columns, school locations and name. Okay, so these are the two variables, and everything else here, you see the measure names, and these other pills are automatically generated by Tableau. We're not going to worry about those right now. Okay, so when we map these, we want Tableau to know that these schools are associated with the enrollment data. So we have school name from the enrollment data, and we have name from the DeKalb school. So we want to tell Tableau that that's the same value. So if you go to the date, it's called a blend relationship specifically. So if you go to data and select this edit blend relationships, we want to tell Tableau that that name field from the DeKalb school data set and the school name from the school enrollment data set are the same, right? So to do that, we go to data, edit blend relationships. So I'll do that again in case you missed it. Data, edit blend relationships. And this is where we're going to tell Tableau that those are the same field. So Tableau tries to do something by default here. It's not really working out for us. So what we're going to do is click on custom and then add. So we see from the primary data field, we see name, and from the secondary data source field, we see school name. So these, again, these are the same. So name is school name from one data set. The school name is the name of the school from the other data set. So we're going to highlight both of those and click OK. And now we should see name and school name in our menu here. And we're going to click OK. Just going to open it up to make sure everything looks OK, and it does. Okay. So now we've set that up. I'm going to go back to my, you can, by the way, you can toggle back and forth between the two data sets we're connected to up here. So the DeKalb schools. So we're going to start with the DeKalb schools, and I'm going to take the school locations pill and I'm going to drag that onto my worksheet. And now those shape files that we created in Google Maps are now showing up in Tableau. Maybe for some background context, we can add a layer. We know how to do that already. We're going to go to Map, Background Layers. Maybe we want to show, let's show income again by, let's try zip code or census tract this time. And let's use the brown area. Maybe, okay. Okay, so now we have the schools. Maybe we want to add a label. And here's something that's a little bit tricky. It's not in the handout, so if you want to make note of it, you can do so. So I'm going to take this name pill and I'm going to put it on label. And now we can see the name of each school is on the shape. So, and now I want to go back to this school enrollment data. And I want to maybe put the enrollment data. So now we can see the enrollment data and the school name. So what I was talking about before, that's not in the handout, when since we did the blend relationship, if I were to just, let's back up. If I were to go here and use the enrollment label here, I'd get an error message, right? And the error message is telling us we need to use one of the fields that we connected through this blend relationship, right? So in order to get these two data sets to talk to each other, we need to use the linked variable. So the school name or the name. So if I put the name there and then go back and put the enrollment, then it's going to work with no error message. So that was not in the handout if you wanted to make a note of that. So when you're using blended data, you need the linked variables in there for everything to work. Okay, but maybe if we're looking at this, it is a little bit cluttered when we're looking at the name of the school and the enrollment data. It's a lot to look at. What could we do if we don't want these labels to show up, but we know we need them? Well, the nice thing about Tableau is you can actually click on the label card here and uncheck that. So we don't see the label. We still see all the values we need in the tooltip, and everything still looks how it's supposed to. Nothing is broken, but we don't see all those labels cluttering up everything. So even though we have these two pills on the label card, we don't have to show the labels for it to work. So it still works as a tooltip. Okay, one thing I just wanted to point out too, we have the sum of enrollment. So we talked about this in the two previous examples. Tableau is adding all the enrollment data from all the years in our data set. And maybe we don't want that. In the previous examples, we built a filter by year. But in this example, instead of doing the filter by year, let's do an average. So maybe we want to look at the average enrollment by year. So to do that, we can change the aggregation. This is something we talked about a little bit in previous Tableau sessions, but just to show you how to do it again, you can take the pill. I'm going to right click or click on that little arrow in the enrollment pill. And I'm going to go to measure. So the default is sum. I'm going to change that to average. And I'm going to go ahead. It reapplied my labels. So I'm going to undo the labels. So we're taking an average now. So now when I hover the mouse over each one of these schools, we see the average enrollment, not the total enrollment. Okay, and you could also apply color if you wanted to, maybe enrollment by color. But again, that summed it up, so we might have to go and change that as well. You could change the color scheme if you wanted to. Maybe instead of the blue, maybe, let's see. Maybe I'll change that to, or I could change the background layer. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe we can use orange blue diverging for the background. Maybe we want to add some streets and highways to our map. I'll take the state name labels off. Maybe I want the zip code boundaries in there. Whatever you want to do. I'm just playing around with some customization options here. But I'm going to go ahead and call this map. I'll call this school locations. But that's just a little taste of working with shape files. It's pretty fun. We're going to go ahead and build another sheet. So with the last example I want to show you how to do is I want to build a dashboard that has a map and a line graph. We're going to build a quick line graph in a minute. So with sheet 4, we're just going to make a simple enrollment over time. line chart. And then we're going to build a dashboard. And I just wanted to show you, it's like a really fun thing to make and play around with. You can put a map and a line graph on, or any kind of graph really, on the same dashboard and use the map to filter the line graph. So let's talk about how to do that. I'm just going to go to year here. I'm going to take my year pill. I opened up a new sheet. It's called sheet 4. I'm going to take year and put it into columns. And then I'm going to take enrollment and I'm going to put that into rows. Maybe I want to take my standard view up here and go to look at the entire view. Maybe I want to change this line to the blue line to a brown line. You don't have to. You can make it whatever color you want. And I'm going to increase the size of this line too. I just want it to show up a little thicker. So if I click on size, I can use that slider. I'll make it like that. There we go. And I will call this just a simple line chart. We talked about how to do these in one of the previous sessions. I'm just going to call this enrollment over time. Okay, so now I have my enrollment over time chart, and I have all these beautiful maps here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a dashboard. So I'm going to click on this middle option here, dashboard 1. So for this example, I want to use the shaded area map. So I'll take the shaded area map, and I want to use the enrollment over time line chart that we just created. So I'm going to keep this tiled. If you recall, there are 2 ways of adding sheets to your dashboard. I'm going to use the tile. So when I use the tile, Tableau is going to carve out space for me. So what I want to do is I want to put this line graph right below the map. So when I see the gray shaded dashboard area on the bottom half of the dashboard, I'm going to select it. And now I want to make it a little smaller. I want the enrollment over time to be I don't want that to take up too much space. I want the map to be like the main feature of this dashboard. So I'm going to grab the line between the 2 sheets and I'm just going to lower the line so it's down there. Maybe what I could do is edit this axis. Maybe I can make it a fixed axis. We'll see what that does. Okay, so now we have a map up here that's showing us enrollment by zip code. And we have the line down here that's showing us total enrollment by year. So what I want to do is turn this into a filter. So when I click on a zip code, I see the line below that corresponds to that zip code. So to do that, there's actually a helpful little feature here. So if you click on the part of the dashboard that's showing the shaded area map, this little list of tools will show up here. If you click on that little arrow that says more options, you can select the uses filter. And now, when I click on the zip code, we see we're filtering this line by zip code. Maybe we want to go back to our shaded area map. I hid the all option here. Maybe we want to go back to the shaded area map and go to customize. Maybe we want to show that all value. And I'm going to go back to my dashboard. Usually what happens is when you make a change in the sheet, it's reflected on the dashboard, but it's not here. So what I'm going to do is that maybe I'll just take that off and put it back on. And now, okay, now I see the all option. I'm going to resize everything here. So essentially we can filter by two things here. We can filter by the year. So if we're interested in all the years, click back up here and add use as filter. So now what I was trying to say before is we can essentially filter by two items here, year and date. So we have the date filter that applies to the shaded area map, and then the shaded area map is filtering the line below. And if you're curious about how the filters work, they're a little bit, the filters are a little bit different. What I call the dashboard level filters are a little bit different. So if you wanted to modify a filter or maybe create one from scratch, maybe you wanted to build your own instead of just using this like default use as filter option, you can click on dashboard up here, and dashboard filters are referred to as actions. That's what Tableau calls them. So if you click on actions, you can see the filter, and it's telling you it was generated, so that means Tableau generated that. If we wanted to edit that, we could just select it and click edit. And we can sort of change how the filter works. So the source sheet is what sheet do we want to drive the filter? So we want the shaded area map. And what's the target sheet? So what sheet is going to reflect the filter? We want both, it looks like. And what we could do is maybe instead of select, maybe we could change that to hover. Let's see what that does. So instead of clicking on the filter, all I have to do is hover my mouse over it. We go back to the actions. Let's see what else we could do. We could do a single select only. So we can only select one at a time. Keep filtered. Show all values. Let's do that. So there is a little bit of flexibility and customization here. I want to show you something else here. So if you go back to dashboard and click on actions, there are other types of actions besides the filter. So if you click on, there's a highlight option. So it works like a filter, but instead of filtering the other sheet, it will highlight a part of that other sheet for you. You can add a go-to URL. So maybe I want my map to work like every time you click on a zip code, you go to the data, the website that has the data for that school's enrollment or something like that. So there are some options there as well. I'm going to go ahead and rename this. Maybe I'll call it enrollment over time by zip code or something like that. So in real life, I probably wouldn't want the year filter on here because this is showing us the year here. So if I were going to do this for real, I'd probably maybe take the filter off and maybe show average enrollment here. So if we wanted to share this, you do have, it sort of depends on how you want to share it, but if you want to share the project with somebody, maybe you're working on a collaborative project and you want to send this to somebody, what you would do is go to File. If you wanted to save the whole project, including the data, you could export it as a package workbook. You could also export it as a PowerPoint. If you export it as a PowerPoint, you're going to lose any of the interactive components. Okay. And another thing you can do is with each product type, so we have sheets, dashboard, and story. That's what I mean by product types. If you click on the dashboard, You can export the image here. Again, it's just going to be an image file, so you won't have any of the filtering capabilities or the interactivity. Same thing with the worksheet. If you go to the worksheet, you could export as an image, a data or crosstab to Excel. Now, what I think you meant is, or maybe what you were getting at is how would you share this so you could present to it on the web or share it with somebody on the web. To do that and to share it and to maintain like the interactive components, you would need to publish it to Tableau Public. So even though we created this in Tableau Desktop, we're going to need Tableau Public to share it. So what we could do is click on Server here and go to Tableau Public, save to Tableau Public as. So I'm signing into Tableau Server. You might get this error message. It's telling us that a data extraction is required. So that if you see this error message, don't worry, nothing is broken. That's just one step you have to do to convert a project made with Tableau Desktop to Tableau Public. So to extract the data, you go to Data, I'm going to extract both. Okay, and now let's see if I can export. I give it a name, I'll call it GPL mapping. Now we're saving it to my Tableau Public account, and then we'll see the sharing options once we get into Tableau Public. Like Rachel is saying, you can generate a code. So if you want to put it on a website, you can do that. You can just link directly to it. So if you want to share this link directly with somebody, you could. So here's my map here. Okay, so if I wanted to share this, there's the share icon. I can generate a code or links. And if I have like my own website, I could embed the code in my website. So whenever somebody goes to that website, they'll see my little link. And this is showing me, I think what happened was I was on the shaded area map when I shared to Tableau. So that's why that's the only thing when I shared to Tableau Public. So that's why it's the only thing we're seeing. But if I wanted to share my dashboard, I could do that too. But it only shared that one sheet because that's what I had selected when I clicked the share option. You could also send it via email. We covered a lot of ground here in Tableau 3. I hope it was helpful.